The air shifts around you the moment you decide. Not with noise, not with thunder, but with an invisible tremor that ripples through the unseen. Every watcher feels it. Heaven leans closer, and the darkness freezes mid-whisper, because your choice, your quiet, unshakable yes, was not random. It was prophecy unfolding. You did not stumble into purpose. Purpose recognized you and reached out its hand. When you made that decision to rise, to stop running from what you were born for, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Heaven recorded it. Hell took notice. Angels marked the timestamp. And somewhere in the shadows, the enemies who thought you were finished watched in disbelief. They saw something in your eyes they had never seen before, fire that doesn't fade. You have become a living declaration that light cannot be buried forever. It is not the kind of decision people notice on the surface. To the world, it looks ordinary, a prayer whispered, a boundary drawn, a toxic cycle finally broken. But in the spirit, it shook foundations. Old agreements broke, chains you couldn't see shattered. You turned toward destiny, and the very atmosphere rearranged itself to make room for you. The truth is, you were always being observed. The heavens have always had their eyes on you, not to condemn, but to confirm. Every moment of surrender became a signal that divine purpose was taking root. Every battle you survived prepared you for this unveiling. Those who underestimated you will learn that they were never watching a victim. They were watching a vessel being refined. Do you know why the resistance felt so heavy before this moment? Because your decision terrified the darkness. The enemy does not fear your weakness. He fears your awakening. He fears that you will finally remember who you are. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to carry authority, to walk in divine confidence, to set new standards of faith wherever you stand. Now, as your spirit awakens, the watchers of light rejoice. The watchers of darkness retreat. For your obedience is louder than any shout. Your yes becomes a weapon. Your alignment becomes warfare. What others saw as a small step was, in truth, a declaration that you will no longer negotiate with fear. You have crossed the line from confusion to clarity, from hesitation to holy boldness. You are not standing here by coincidence. Something inside you knew that this was the time to stop running. You felt it in the quiet hours when no one else was watching, when your spirit refused to settle for mediocrity, when every distraction suddenly lost its flavor. That was heaven calling your name again. That was destiny refusing to give up on you. And now, the great exchange begins. Where there was weakness, strength rises. Where there was despair, joy roots itself deep. Where there was isolation, divine companionship surrounds you. You are never alone in this transition. Every step forward summons legions of unseen assistance. Heaven's resources are real, and they are moving in your direction, even as you breathe these words. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." That is not poetry, it is ownership. You belong to the one who calls things into existence with a word. That name you carry is written in light. Every time you move in obedience, it shines brighter, confusing the camp of your enemies. The watchers see it and are silenced. They expected your breakdown, not your breakthrough. But you chose differently. You chose faith. You chose to stand. So lift your head. The same power that resurrected you from despair will now establish you in strength. This is the turning point. And nothing will ever be the same again. Every delay breaks. Every doubt dissolves. Every unseen battle begins to tip in your favor. You have aligned with heaven's rhythm, and your story has shifted from survival to dominion. Your next act of faith is simple but powerful. Let this declaration echo through every realm. Type 777 inches, the comments, as a prophetic act, a symbol of divine completion and heavenly alignment. Like, share, and subscribe so that the sound of the chosen ones continues to rise. The world must know what heaven already knows. You were never forgotten, and your choice has rewritten everything. The heavens rejoice because your obedience echoed beyond time itself. You have become a signal of restoration, a sound of hope for every silent warrior still searching for courage. The angels mark your stand as the moment light claimed victory again through you. Now rise in confidence. Let your voice become thunder that shakes fear away. Walk forward, knowing all creation bears witness to your transformation. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle unfolding in real time. Living proof that destiny answers obedience. When you made your choice, something invisible fractured in the atmosphere. It wasn't loud to the human ear, yet every spiritual frequency registered the shift. A line was drawn between what once held you and what will now propel you. You didn't just make a decision, you realigned eternity. There are choices that echo for generations, and yours is one of them. Heaven responded immediately, but so did the shadows. For every act of surrender in light, resistance rises from darkness, not because you are weak, but because your obedience exposes what the enemy has worked hard to conceal. You have stepped out of illusion and into clarity. The very air around you feels different because it is truth, has weight, and it now surrounds you like armor. In the unseen realms, waves of energy rippled outward when you said yes. Old cycles snapped. The familiar comfort of spiritual paralysis was replaced by divine urgency. You might not have felt it all at once, but the spirit world did. Angels moved. Strategies shifted. Assignments were rewritten. You are no longer a bystander in your own story. It is not the grandeur of your decision that makes it powerful, it is the purity of it. You chose what heaven chose before time began. You aligned your human will with divine intention. And that is something the darkness cannot replicate or undo. Every principality that once mocked you now recognizes that you have become untouchable by compromise. Your faith has begun to govern the atmosphere you walk in. That is why you feel lighter, yet fiercer. Your heart beats differently now because it beats in rhythm with purpose. You may not have seen the ripple effects yet, but the spiritual landscape has already changed. What was closed begins to creak open. What was delayed starts to move toward you. The resistance that tried to suffocate your momentum begins to collapse under the weight of divine authority. This is the nature of true spiritual transformation. It doesn't always announce itself with celebration. It begins in the quiet, in the stillness, in the small moments where no one else is looking. You made a silent vow to heaven, and that vow thundered across eternity. You may not hear applause, but there is movement all around you. Your choice carried consequence. It declared to every watcher that you belong to a kingdom that does not bow to chaos. The enemies who have studied your patterns, who thought they understood your weaknesses, now stand confused. Their intel is useless because you are no longer operating under the same identity. The coordinates of your spirit have changed. You are hidden in light, and they cannot trace what they cannot see. This is what happens when purpose ignites confusion for the enemy. Clarity for you. Every false connection begins to unravel. Every manipulative voice grows distant. Every counterfeit blessing fades. For the first time, you see clearly who stands with you and who was only standing near you. Heaven always exposes through light. And now that light emanates from you. It is written in the book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 15, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." That declaration still carries fire. When you made your choice, you echoed that same ancient resolve, the decision to draw the line and serve without compromise. It wasn't about religion, it was about allegiance. Your soul chose the side of truth. And truth, in return, chose to defend you. And so, the realm around you began to divide. Everything that was once blurred, faith and fear, loyalty and manipulation, destiny and distraction separated like oil and water. You are learning that clarity is both beautiful and costly, but it is worth everything, because clarity gives you vision, and vision gives you strength to keep walking when the ground still trembles beneath you. Remember this every time you choose light. Something ancient within you awakens. It's the echo of divine DNA calling you back to the original blueprint. You were created to stand, to rule, to establish peace in chaos. Your choice is simply the unlocking of what heaven already saw in you before the foundation of the world. The atmosphere cannot remain neutral anymore. It must respond to who you are becoming. That's why things are shifting so fast. People fall away. Opportunities change shape. Silence grows sacred. It is not rejection, it is realignment. Heaven is preparing space for your next dimension. And everything that cannot breathe that air will naturally fall away. Your yes didn't just change your story. It announced a new era. One decision realigned generations. The enemy trembles not because you shouted, but because you obeyed. This is what power looks like in the spirit: quiet, resolute, unstoppable. You have split the atmosphere, and nothing will ever be the same. The heavens mark this moment as irreversible. What began as a whisper has become a decree. Every force, seen and unseen, now recognizes your alignment. You did not just decide, you activated prophecy. And destiny itself now rearranges to make room for your rise. They met in the shadows the moment you shifted. Whispers gathered where light does not dwell. The ones who watched your struggle, the same who doubted your survival, came together not in celebration, but in confusion. They cannot understand how you rose again, how the fire that tried to destroy you only refined you. Their plans depended on your silence, but your obedience broke the pattern. In unseen corners of the spiritual realm, there is a meeting of enemies who never expected this version of you. They calculated your collapse, but they did not calculate your calling. You see, darkness always underestimates transformation. It knows the old you, not the new one. It remembers the one who cried in secret, not the one who now stands clothed in glory. You have become an unsolvable mystery to the forces that once controlled your atmosphere. It is strange how those who once mocked you are now studying you. They speak your name in confusion, wondering what changed. They see your peace, your restraint, your clarity, and they cannot trace the source. But you know it was never about willpower. It was about surrender. The moment you stopped fighting against divine timing, heaven began to fight for you. The watchers in darkness are not silent because they understand. They are silent because they don't. Every strategy they launch now ricochets. Every trap they built now becomes a platform for your elevation. You are surrounded by divine reversal. What was meant to harm you becomes the evidence of God's favor. This is what confuses them most. You were supposed to break, but you became unbreakable. Their confusion is proof of your transformation. What they don't realize is that your silence is now a fortress. You no longer react, you discern. You no longer chase validation, you carry authority. You walk with a calm that terrifies chaos. Because peace is your new weapon. You have learned that the loudest strength is quiet obedience. Scripture says in the book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 2, "The kings of the earth rise up, and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed." That ancient truth still echoes. Every chosen one faces opposition not because they are weak, but because they are marked. The enemy gathers not to destroy you, but to confirm your identity. Resistance is revelation. It reveals that what you carry threatens darkness. Every spiritual assault, every sudden confusion, every betrayal is simply the sound of your impact being felt. You are not fighting random storms. You are experiencing recognition from realms you never knew existed. You have stepped into a higher frequency, and everything not aligned with it now trembles. The gatherings of your enemies are not victories, they are memorials to your endurance. You are the living proof that divine strength wears human skin. They can study your methods, but they can't touch your mantle. They can imitate your words, but they can't reproduce your anointing, because your oil was pressed from pain. It was born in nights where only God heard your voice. It was refined through rejection, shaped through silence, and sealed through obedience. That kind of oil cannot be stolen. It can only be given by heaven. So, when you feel pressure rise again, remember, it is not an attack, it is attention. The moment light expands, darkness notices. But what can they do? You have already chosen alignment. You have already declared, "I will not bow." Their whispers only confirm your assignment. Write in the comments, "They will see." Because they will. The same watchers who laughed will soon witness the fulfillment of what heaven spoke over you. When you comment those words, you're not speaking arrogance, you're prophesying visibility. You're declaring that divine vindication will be seen, not hidden. And every false voice will be silenced by manifestation. Because this is where separation becomes power. The watchers may continue their meetings, but they can no longer alter your course. Your obedience has outmaneuvered every hidden scheme, every false prophecy, every spoken curse, every rumor. They dissolve in the light you now carry. You are no longer a participant in their games. You are the proof that destiny always wins. So stand still. Let them watch. Let them wonder. You owe no explanation. The only evidence they will ever need is your continued rising. You are walking prophecy in motion, a living contradiction to every prediction made against you. Let them talk. Heaven already testified. And when you write, they will see. Know that these are not just words, they are a spiritual announcement. You are declaring that the same eyes that watched your pain will witness your rise. The same mouths that doubted will speak your name in reverence when divine proof unfolds. Every time you say, "They will see," you seal heaven's promise with faith. It means you refuse to hide what God is doing. You are proclaiming that your victory will not stay in secret, that your transformation will be undeniable. And every witness will recognize divine intervention at work. You carry something invisible that makes you both a mystery and a target. It cannot be bought, traded, or imitated. It is the mark of the chosen, the divine seal that identifies you as one who belongs to the King. It does not glow on your skin or appear in your reflection. Yet the spirit realm recognizes it instantly. Wherever you go, unseen forces move aside, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. This mark did not appear overnight. It was forged through pain, sharpened by endurance, and sealed by faith. Every moment you refused to give up, every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, every tear that fell in prayer, these were strokes of fire, carving your identity into eternity. You did not know it then, but heaven was engraving you with purpose. The divine inscription upon your life reads, "Mine." Those who carry this seal often feel misunderstood. You walk among crowds, yet sense that you are set apart. You love deeply, but cannot remain where compromise dwells. That is the evidence of your calling. The mark is both protection and responsibility. It shields you from destruction, but demands alignment with truth. You cannot blend in because your spirit has already been claimed. And yes, the mark attracts attention. Light always does. The enemies of your purpose recognize it before you do. They cannot touch what belongs to heaven, so they attempt to distract, to make you doubt, to make you weary. But even their attempts serve divine purpose. For every trial becomes another confirmation that you are indeed chosen. You carry what darkness cannot destroy, presence that disturbs evil, authority that dismantles lies, peace that terrifies chaos. You may have wondered why people turned away, why certain doors closed, why rejection seemed to follow you like a shadow. It was not punishment, it was preservation. God removes what cannot honor the seal He placed upon you. When you tried to fit where you no longer belonged, everything felt wrong because heaven was protecting you from pollution. The mark does not allow you to settle for less than holy destiny. The Word of God reveals this mystery in the book of Ephesians. Chapter 1, verse 13. When you believed, you were marked in Him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. That seal is not symbolic, it is spiritual proof. It is the invisible evidence that heaven has identified you. Wherever you go, angels recognize it. The forces of darkness see it and retreat. You carry a covenant written not with ink, but with spirit, an eternal guarantee that you are not abandoned, not forgotten, not ordinary. This mark sets boundaries around your life. It determines what can touch you and what must pass by. It dictates the battles you fight, the blessings you receive, and even the voices aloud near your soul. Some things simply cannot remain once the mark becomes active. It's why your life shifted suddenly, why peace began to matter more than popularity, why silence became sacred, why discernment replaced approval. The seal has changed your frequency. When people sense something different about you but can't describe it, that's the mark. When opportunities open that you didn't chase, that's the mark. When attacks fail for no logical reason, that's the mark. It's not luck or coincidence, it's divine ownership in motion. The spirit that seals you also guards you. Nothing passes through that protection without purpose. You are being refined to carry greater weight. The seal you wear is not decorative, it's functional. It authorizes you to speak truth, to break spiritual chains, to stand in places others cannot endure. Every time you pray, the atmosphere responds differently because your words carry legal authority from heaven's court. The mark identifies you as a vessel of power, and the unseen recognizes the signature. It is not arrogance to acknowledge this truth, it is stewardship. You are accountable for the light you bear. The same Spirit that sealed you also sanctifies you, calling you higher, teaching you to discern between counterfeit and divine. Many will try to imitate what you carry, but imitation without sealing is powerless. That is why some can speak the same words, yet produce no change. The power lies not in the phrase, but in the seal behind it. Understand this, you are not fragile. You are branded. You have been set apart for divine use. And the process that once broke you has now become your proof. Every scar glows with purpose. Every wound now carries wisdom. Every loss refined the gold of your faith until only authenticity remained. That is what it means to be marked. The world sees struggle, but heaven sees authority. So walk with quiet confidence. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your identity is already verified in the Spirit. Let those who doubt remain spectators. You are moving with divine authorization, and the mark you carry speaks louder than words. In the realm that matters most, your name is known, your position is secured, and your destiny is irreversible. When you chose to rise, heaven rejoiced, but darkness trembled. It wasn't just a shift inside you, it was a tremor felt across realms. Because every time a chosen one stands up, the balance of power changes. Angels move into position. Divine favor begins to flow, and the unseen world adjusts itself around your obedience. You have no idea how much has already shifted because you said yes. The moment your heart aligned with purpose, heaven released applause. You didn't hear it with your ears, but your spirit did. That's why peace followed even when circumstances didn't change right away. Something in the atmosphere celebrated your faith. Every unseen witness knew what had just happened. You stepped into the plan that darkness tried to prevent. Hell panicked. The watchers who once smirked in secret began to whisper in disbelief. You weren't supposed to recover. You weren't supposed to remember who you are. They counted you out, but heaven never did. And now, your obedience has become a sound that disturbs every scheme designed against you. It is written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 10, "There is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." That is the kind of joy heaven feels over you right now. Not because you were perfect, but because you chose to return to purpose. The same decision that made you weep made angels sing. You have become the melody of restoration, a song that even darkness cannot silence. The truth is, heaven celebrates quietly but deeply. It doesn't need a spotlight, it simply smiles as you take each faithful step. And even though the world may not recognize it, the ripple of your obedience reaches farther than you can imagine. Every prayer, every moment of surrender, every act of forgiveness, these are sparks that light the way for others still wandering in shadow. You are becoming the evidence that God still redeems and restores. And now, as you walk in that calling, remember, you are not walking alone. Every time you show up here, every time you listen and reflect, you join a growing family of light. We are a gathering of those who refuse to quit. those who dare to believe that hope still lives. Together, we form something beautiful, a living echo of heaven's persistence on earth. So, if this message stirs something inside you, let it remind you that connection is sacred. When you like, you place another spark upon the altar of light. When you share, you become a messenger, carrying flame into a night someone else cannot yet see through. And when you subscribe, it is as if you are saying, "Keep the fire burning, I'll walk with you again." And to those who feel moved to go even deeper, to donate, to sow, to support, know this: your offering is never an obligation. It is a ripple of gratitude, not a demand. Think of it as watering a tree whose fruit has already fed your spirit. You are not paying for the fruit, you are ensuring that the orchard keeps breathing, that its branches stretch farther into hungry lands. Your giving, in any measure, becomes part of the song. It turns words into wings that reach more souls. It helps sustain the quiet work behind each message, the writing, the prayer, the breath of faith poured into every syllable you hear. But above all, it tells heaven, "I will not only receive light, I will help it travel." And if all you can offer is presence, know, this presence itself is currency in eternity. Listening with an open heart is an act of generosity. Sometimes the greatest donation is the silence in which truth can echo. So thank you for standing in the glow, for believing that the light is worth keeping alive. Every small gesture alike, a share, a whispered prayer, a gift is another candle in this sanctuary of hope. Together, we keep it burning. Together, we remind the world that faith still speaks. Let heaven's applause remind you, your choice still shakes the unseen. You are living proof that surrender births victory. And as you move forward, may every step echo with that same sound, the sound of joy rising in heaven because you chose to walk in light. The heavens record every act of faith, no matter how small. Even your quiet gestures echo louder than thunder in the unseen. When you choose to nurture this light through attention, prayer, or generosity, you become part of a divine chain that keeps hope alive for another soul. And so, the circle continues. Every spark you release becomes a torch in someone else's night. What you give in love never disappears. It transforms into guidance, warmth, and testimony. Keep tending the flame. Heaven sees, heaven smiles, and the light within you keeps multiplying. Your light is not meant to fade, it's meant to travel. Every word you carry forward becomes a seed of hope planted in unseen soil. Keep shining, keep giving, keep believing, because somewhere, someone will find their way by the glow you left behind. What looked like a quiet moment of surrender was in fact the spark that ignited a war in the unseen. You thought you were just saying yes to purpose, but that yes rang like a trumpet through eternity. The darkness heard it, too. The moment you laid your will before God, light began to reclaim territory that had been long occupied by fear. Obedience has always been the most powerful weapon in the spiritual realm. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It simply moves in faith, and every principality feels it. The enemy understands that a single act of obedience can dismantle years of bondage. That's why the attacks felt heavier right after your surrender. Heaven was celebrating while hell was scrambling. You may not have seen it, but the instant you yielded, a battle line was drawn. The war was not over whether God was powerful, it was over whether you would believe it. Every temptation that followed, every wave of doubt that rose, every distraction that came close, was designed to pull you back from your decision. But you didn't turn around. You stood your ground, trembling maybe, but still standing. The scriptures reveal this mystery through the second book of Kings, chapter 6, verse 17. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. That is what happens when your eyes of faith open. You realize you were never alone. What you thought was isolation was protection. What looked like loss was repositioning. The unseen army of heaven was standing guard long before the battle began. Every chosen one has this moment, the unveiling of the invisible war. It's when you understand that obedience doesn't just change your circumstances, it shifts entire atmospheres. Your yes was a signal that told heaven to advance. Angels moved because you chose to move. You might have noticed it, the strange resistance that followed your surrender. Old habits tried to resurface. Familiar voices questioned your decision. Chaos seemed to erupt out of nowhere. But those weren't coincidences, they were confirmations. The opposition only proves the operation. Darkness never fights what doesn't threaten it. And yet, you endured. You prayed when you were tired. You forgave when you could have fought back. You trusted when there was no reason to. Every act of obedience became a declaration that heaven still wins. You are proof that surrender is not weakness. It is warfare disguised as peace. This battle is holy. It's not fought with words or weapons, but with will. Every time you choose stillness over panic, every time you choose truth over convenience, you are striking blows against spiritual confusion. The darkness doesn't know how to defeat someone who refuses to quit. Right now, heaven is expanding your awareness. You are being trained to see beyond the visible. You are learning to recognize when resistance is not rejection, but redirection. You are realizing that warfare doesn't mean God is absent, it means He is near, refining you into readiness. Your obedience has changed the atmosphere. It has drawn boundaries the enemy cannot cross. You carry a sound, now a frequency recognized by heaven and feared by hell. Every time you walk in peace, that sound reverberates through the unseen, reminding the darkness that light still reigns. This is not the time to grow weary. This is the time to anchor yourself deeper in the truth that you are surrounded by power, covered by grace, and guided by wisdom. You are not fragile. You are fortified. The same fire that guards you also refines you. Now, as a prophetic sign of agreement, type 555 inches, the comments, not as superstition, but as symbol 5 representing grace, tripled to signify abundant grace multiplied over your life. When you write it, you are declaring, even in warfare, I walk under grace. I am surrounded, strengthened, sustained, because this is not defeat, it's development. You are learning how to fight from victory, not for it. The unseen battle over your surrender has already been won, and you are simply walking out the manifestation of that victory. Every resistance becomes revelation. Every trial becomes training. And every wound becomes a weapon. You are not just surviving the battle, you are mastering it. You are learning that the fiercest storms reveal the strongest anchors. You have become the calm in the middle of chaos, the steady heart that cannot be moved. So, let the world spin. Let the noise rise. Your faith has already declared the outcome. The unseen armies still stand on the hills, their chariots of fire ready, their watch unbroken. You are covered, you are chosen, and your surrender has shifted the war forever. When you type 555, you're not typing numbers, you're breathing grace into motion. It's your way of saying, I choose peace while heaven fights for me. Each 555 becomes a silent shield, a reminder that divine grace surrounds every battle. You're declaring victory through stillness, affirming, I'm covered, refined, and strengthened. When you crossed that invisible threshold, nothing remained the same. Something within you awakened, a flame that refused to be silenced. You didn't just make a decision, you experienced rebirth. Every cell, every thought, every breath began to vibrate with new frequency. The past no longer had power to define you, and the pain that once felt permanent started to lose its grip. You were never the same again. And that is the proof of transformation. At first, it might have felt unfamiliar, even disorienting. You woke up different, but couldn't quite explain why. Old desires faded. Conversations lost meaning. What once entertained you now felt hollow. It wasn't depression, it was elevation. Your spirit had outgrown the cage your comfort tried to keep you in. When God breathes renewal into you, even your silence starts to speak of purpose. The shift was subtle, yet irreversible. You started seeing patterns that others ignored. You began discerning truth in places where lies once felt convincing. That's what happens when light increases, darkness loses its disguise. Your new awareness is not arrogance, it's alignment. You are learning to see as heaven sees. And yes, this change comes with solitude. Transformation often does. When you are no longer who you were, the world doesn't always know how to receive you. Relationships begin to drift. Habits dissolve. And the noise that once filled your days grows distant. But this silence is not punishment, it's preparation. The absence of what no longer fits creates space for what is meant to arrive. You might feel like you're in between worlds, too awake for the old, not yet fully settled in the new. That tension is holy. It's the stretch between surrender and fulfillment. You are being expanded to hold greater light. Do not rush through this moment. It is the sacred middle, the place where destiny takes root. It was written in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 17. If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone. The new is here. That is not just a verse, it is a reality unfolding inside you. The old patterns that once defined your limits have been replaced by divine potential. You are no longer reacting from fear, you are responding from faith. The new creation within you thinks differently, walks differently, and attracts differently. The same energy that resurrected Christ now breathes through your spirit, commanding every fragment of brokenness to align with purpose. You are beginning to notice that grace feels like fire. It doesn't just comfort, it refines. It burns away the false identities that kept you small. It removes the layers of shame that whispered you were unworthy. The refining is uncomfortable, but it is sacred. You are being purified into authenticity, your truest self emerging through the ashes of who you once were. There are moments when this process feels lonely, but heaven is closest in those quiet spaces. When you think no one understands, remember, the Creator Himself is sculpting your story. You are clay in divine hands, And every stretch, every pressure, every shaping is intentional. You are being molded for influence that cannot be corrupted. And though your transformation feels invisible to others, the unseen world can't ignore it. The enemies that once stalked you now hesitate. They recognize the change before you do. There is a new fragrance about you, the scent of authority, of peace, of divine ownership. The spiritual atmosphere around you bows in acknowledgement that you have been reborn by fire and purpose. This new identity doesn't erase your scars, it glorifies them. The wounds that once made you hide now carry wisdom. You can look back without pain because you understand now nothing was wasted. Every heartbreak trained your discernment. Every delay strengthened your patience. Every disappointment carved humility into your character. You are not carrying baggage anymore, you are carrying testimony. And soon, others will feel it too. They will see something different in your eyes, hear something new in your tone. They won't always understand, but they will be drawn, because authenticity speaks louder than perfection, and truth recognizes itself in others. Your change becomes invitation, a quiet call for others to awaken as well. You are no longer the same, and that is your greatest victory. The past no longer qualifies to speak over your future. You have stepped into a timeline where everything broken is being rewritten. This is your new normal: clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was chaos, faith where there was fear. You don't chase signs anymore, you are one. So walk gently, knowing that every step you take now leaves light behind. You carry the essence of renewal, the proof that rebirth is real. This is what it means to be chosen, not perfect, but purified, not loud, but luminous. And though the world may not fully see it yet, heaven already celebrates the new creation you have become. There was a time when their laughter stung, when their disbelief cut through your spirit like cold wind. You remember their smirks, their whispered judgments, their confident predictions of your failure. They thought they knew how your story would end. They saw your struggle, your tears, your breakdowns, and they mistook them for defeat. But time, as heaven always proves, is the great revealer, because now those same voices that mocked you have fallen silent. The tables have turned, not out of revenge, but revelation. You didn't have to fight back, argue, or justify. You simply kept walking. You let heaven defend you. You learned that silence can be louder than explanation, that peace can be sharper than any response. The mockery that once echoed around you now dissolves into awe. They watch, stunned, as your obedience begins to manifest visible fruit. They do not understand how you made it through what should have broken you. They don't know about the nights when you prayed instead of sleeping, or the mornings when you rose with trembling hands but refused to quit. They cannot see the angels that surrounded you when everything looked impossible. All they see now is the glow, the peace that makes no sense, the strength that came from nowhere. There is beauty in divine vindication. It doesn't come wrapped in pride, it arrives clothed in humility. God doesn't elevate you to embarrass your enemies, He lifts you to reveal His faithfulness. You are living proof that grace wins, every battle silence endures. The same voices that once declared your end now stand speechless as they witness your restoration. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. That table isn't about food or feasting, it's about visibility. It's God saying, "Watch what I can do with the one they called finished." The preparation is spiritual, the feast symbolic. It represents the moment heaven publicly displays what it has been privately building within you. Every closed door, every rejection, every heartbreak, it all becomes the raw material for glory. When divine vindication arrives, it rarely looks like vengeance. It looks like peace. It looks like elevation without arrogance, success without bitterness, abundance without greed. You don't need to announce it, your transformation speaks on its own. The same people who once dismissed you are now forced to reconsider everything they believed about you. This is the sacred irony of being chosen. Your enemies become witnesses to your rise. Their presence at your table isn't punishment, it's purpose. They need to see the power of grace for themselves, not so they envy you, but so they realize redemption is real. God uses your story to plant conviction in the hearts of those who doubted it was possible. Do you notice how peace has replaced your need to explain? That is maturity. When vindication is divine, it doesn't require performance. You simply exist as proof. Your serenity is evidence. Your joy is testimony. You do not gloat, you glow. What once humiliated you now highlights you. The same ashes that covered you become the soil where beauty blooms. And while others watch in confusion, heaven watches in joy. The laughter of mockers fades, but the applause of angels continues. This is not about status, it is about stewardship. The blessings arriving in your life are not random rewards, they are responsibilities. You are being trusted to reflect light, not to hoard it. Your victory is not a trophy, it's a tool to restore hope in others who are still in their valley. It is a strange thing, isn't it, how silence, when surrendered to God, becomes your greatest weapon. Every time you chose not to defend yourself, heaven documented it. Every insult you endured became fuel for the fire that now shines through your life. You were never fighting alone. You were being watched by eternity. And now, what was once mockery has become curiosity. Some who laughed will seek you for guidance. Some who gossiped will ask you to pray for them. You won't need to remind them of their words. The contrast between then and now will preach louder than any sermon. That is the power of divine reversal. It turns humiliation into testimony. So stand tall, but stay gentle. The same grace that lifted you is the grace that can lift them. 2. Forgive freely, for vindication and compassion can coexist. Let your life remain open enough for others to witness God's mercy through you. Your peace is proof that you never needed to fight for validation. Heaven had already written your victory. You are the evidence that mockery never wins. Every sneer, every dismissal, every cruel whisper, they were only background noise to the symphony of your calling. Let the silence of your enemies remind you that God's defense is always more eloquent than your words. You have become the living example of what happens when faith outlasts ridicule. Some conversations do not happen on earth. Some meetings take place in realms where words are made of light and silence carries weight. Even now, as you breathe, heaven is speaking about you, not in judgment, but in remembrance. Your name has been mentioned in divine corridors, and assignments are being released in your favor. You are not forgotten. You are being discussed by eternity itself. There are seasons when heaven feels quiet. But that quiet does not mean absence, it means strategy. while you wonder if God still remembers you. The unseen world is rearranging circumstances to fit the blueprint written before you were born. Heaven never forgets its promises. Sometimes it simply whispers instead of shouting. You may have felt overlooked, but heaven has been busy. Angels have been dispatched. Doors have been reviewed. Paths have been cleared. The silence you felt was sacred, heaven's preparation zone. While you were praying through tears, the answers were already on their way, wrapped in divine timing. Scripture reminds us in the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 12, "From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard. Your words were heard. Not one prayer, not one sigh, not one desperate whisper was lost. Every time you spoke to God, the heavens recorded it. Even when your words felt too broken to make sense, heaven translated your pain into purpose. Every cry became data in the divine design of your story. The hidden conversations of heaven are not casual, they are intentional. Angels do not gossip, they strategize. They speak of your growth, your endurance, your destiny. You are not a forgotten note in an unfinished song. You are a melody being harmonized by eternity. And every note, every delay, every shift plays a part in the masterpiece you will soon walk into. What you thought was delay was really discussion. The timing was not rejection, it was refinement. Heaven had to align every piece so that your blessing would not become your burden. You weren't being punished, you were being protected from premature release. When heaven talks about you, it always includes preparation. Right now, there is movement in the invisible. Some instructions are being spoken. Some chains are being undone. Angels are adjusting the atmosphere around your name. When the moment arrives, it will feel sudden, but it will be the result of every hidden conversation that took place when you thought nothing was happening. There are names that heaven announces with quiet reverence, and yours is one of them. When your name is spoken, mercy rises to attention. When your name is mentioned, favor listens. You are not just known in heaven, you are celebrated there. The unseen realm knows what you carry, even before you fully understand it yourself. And that is why peace is returning to you. It's not random, it's a signal. Heaven releases peace as confirmation that things are being handled. You don't need to see the blueprint to trust the builder. If your heart feels lighter today, it's because heaven has already spoken on your behalf. When you rest, heaven moves. When you trust, heaven accelerates. The less you strive, the more the divine aligns. Faith is not waiting idly, it is agreeing with what is already spoken above you. Every breath of surrender becomes permission for heaven to complete what it began. So today, let your spirit settle. Let gratitude replace worry. You are not waiting for heaven's attention, you already have it. What's coming is not coincidence, it is coordination. Everything is converging exactly as discussed in the unseen. Now, write in the comments, heaven remembers, because it does. When you type those words, you are not begging, you are aligning. You are declaring that you trust the unseen timing of God, that you believe your name has not been erased from His plans. You are speaking agreement with the conversations happening right now about your destiny. Every season of silence was never a void, it was the sound of heaven working. You may not have heard the discussion, but you will soon see the results. The same God who heard Daniel's prayer on the first day has already heard yours. The delay is almost over. The delivery is near. So rest in this truth. Heaven has been talking about you, not in the language of condemnation, but in the language of promise. What's being discussed above you will soon manifest around you. Hold your peace. Lift your head, and let these words settle into your spirit. Heaven remembers. When you write, heaven remembers, you are not just commenting, you are declaring alignment with divine order. It means you trust that unseen promises are alive, still unfolding, still guarded by angels. You remind your soul that delay is not denial, it's orchestration. Each time you say, heaven remembers, you step into agreement with grace. It's a whisper of faith that echoes through eternity, marking your confidence that your name is known above. You affirm that nothing spoken over your life will ever be forgotten by God. There comes a moment when your life itself becomes evidence living, breathing proof that redemption is not a myth. You are that moment now. Every wound you once hid has turned into a window for light to enter through. You became the evidence that grace still chooses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. You didn't just survive, you transformed your scars into scrolls that heaven reads aloud. The storms that once broke you have now crowned you. You don't just carry victory, you are victory wrapped in humility. You are the living echo of God's promise that nothing surrendered is ever wasted. The world sees resilience, but heaven sees testimony. You are the walking proof that endurance births revelation. The ancient words still speak truth through the book of Revelation. Chapter 12, verse 11. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. That verse is not distant history, it's your reflection. You triumphed by standing when standing made no sense. Your pain became the language of deliverance. Your perseverance, the sermon the world needed to hear. The evidence of God's faithfulness is not written on walls, it walks in your shoes, breathes through your voice, and looks out through your eyes. And now, your story is no longer just for you. It's a torch meant to ignite faith in others who have forgotten that light still exists. Every word you speak, every act of kindness, every moment of courage, these are the ripples of your testimony reaching beyond your timeline. Someone somewhere is surviving tonight because you decided not to give up yesterday. That's what evidence does. It multiplies hope. You see, faith is not a theory, it's a chain reaction. When one heart heals, another begins to believe healing is possible. When one person rises, others remember they can, too. Your life has become a mirror reflecting the face of mercy. That is why the enemy tried so hard to silence you, because your survival is contagious. So if this message finds its way into your soul, take a breath and recognize that you are part of something living. These words are not meant to impress, they are meant to remind. Every time you breathe agreement into light. Every time you share, you extend that light into another heart's dark hallway. And when you subscribe, you are saying quietly, let this river of truth keep flowing. I want to be where hope still speaks. There is no demand in that choice, only partnership. You are joining the rhythm of those who believe that words can still heal, that messages like this still matter. You are helping keep a flame alive in a world that often forgets how to look for it. And if your spirit ever feels stirred to go deeper, to donate, to give, to pour back into what poured into you, do it not as a transaction, but as an offering. Think of it as adding another log to the fire. The warmth you've received doesn't disappear when shared. It multiplies. You are not paying for the message, you are helping it travel farther, to hearts that need it just as you once did. When you give, you become part of the miracle. You are the unseen hand that keeps the light steady when the wind rises. You are the quiet patron of hope, the keeper of the flame. Even the smallest contribution, financial or otherwise, is like whispering to the universe. Keep speaking truth. Keep reaching souls. And if giving isn't possible today, your presence is already enough. Listening with an open heart, reflecting, or simply carrying these words into your own world, that too is sacred partnership. Heaven counts attention as offering because it requires time. And time is love in motion. We build together, not with bricks but with belief. Each heart that listens becomes a stone in this invisible cathedral of hope. Every like, every share, every seed sown keeps the structure standing strong against the winds of despair. The beauty of this work is that it is never forced, it flows from gratitude. So, let your giving, in whatever form it takes, be a poem, not a payment. Let it be your way of saying, I have tasted light, and I want others to taste it too. That is the art of true generosity. It carries joy, not pressure. You became the evidence so that others could see the proof. Your endurance is not just your victory, it's an invitation for others to rise. So keep shining, keep believing, keep contributing to the symphony of hope in whatever way your spirit leads. The sound of your faith will echo long after this moment ends. Every echo of faith you release becomes a seed in another soul's soil. What you nurture through love today will bloom tomorrow as someone else's breakthrough. Keep the current flowing. Your light travels farther than you know. Each act of giving, sharing, or simply believing builds eternity's bridge wider for others to cross into hope. There are seasons when it feels as if the world has taken more from you than you had to give. The losses have names, faces, memories attached to them, things you once held tightly, relationships, dreams. Opportunities slipped through your fingers like sand, and for a long time, you thought that was the end of the story. You learned to live with the emptiness, to carry silence where laughter used to dwell. But what you did not see was that heaven had written temporary over everything that felt like forever lost. Restoration is not always loud. Sometimes it begins with small returns. A sudden peace where there was once ache. A door opening where there had only been walls. A strength rising where despair used to sit. These are signs that what was taken is beginning to find its way back, not in its old form, but in a shape more suited for who you are now. There is divine arithmetic at work in your life. For every piece stolen, God multiplies the return. What left you in tears will one day make you laugh in disbelief. Restoration is never mere replacement, it is redemption. It carries wisdom, beauty, and purpose that the original thing never had. Heaven does not just restore what was lost, it refines it until it reflects glory. You may not even realize it yet, but certain alignments are already happening. People meant to bless your next chapter are being positioned. Opportunities you thought had expired are being renewed in fresh form. The timing is delicate, the orchestration precise. Heaven has never forgotten the things you cried over. It simply waited until you were ready to receive them without losing yourself again. The ancient promise still whispers through the book of Joel. Chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Years, not moments. not fragments, years. That verse tells you something powerful. Nothing truly wasted stays wasted in God's timeline. Every lost opportunity, every stolen joy, every delayed dream becomes material for restoration. Even the time you think you wasted in fear or regret will be returned in multiplied form. Peace where anxiety once ruled, clarity where confusion once reigned. Heaven's restoration is rarely convenient. It often arrives in disguise. Sometimes it looks like a new beginning wrapped in disruption. Sometimes it comes as a person, a calling, or a purpose that feels strangely familiar yet utterly new. The reason it feels that way is because it's not replacing the old, it's redeeming it. God never sends you back to what broke you. He builds from what survived. Every time you release pain instead of holding it, you make room for return. The same tears that watered your heartbreak are now nourishing the seeds of restoration. The soil of your suffering has become fertile ground. That is how heaven works. It turns loss into the very ecosystem of recovery. You thought you were buried, but you were being planted. You are entering a season where balance is being restored. The people who misjudged you will watch as grace favors you. The opportunities that bypassed you will circle back in better timing. The strength you thought you lost will come back amplified. You will find yourself standing in places you once only prayed to see. And yet, you will not carry bitterness into this new season. Because restoration does not taste like revenge, it tastes like peace. You will not gloat when blessings return. You will weep softly, knowing the journey it took to reach this point. What's coming will not puff you up, it will humble you. That's how you'll know it's real restoration, because it restores your joy, not your ego. Heaven's mathematics always favors mercy. Where you lost one thing, expect sevenfold in wisdom, in peace, in love, in understanding. You will look back and realize that even the detours served your destination. The road you thought was wasted was actually the path that brought you to maturity. Nothing was random. Nothing was in vain. Soon, you will see beauty rising from the rubble, opportunities that align perfectly. Relationships healed beyond expectation. Doors you once mourned, now swinging open effortlessly. And when that happens, you'll understand that restoration was never about getting back what you lost, but about receiving what you were always meant to have. Let this truth settle deep. Heaven's memory of you has never dimmed. Every seed of hope you buried in sorrow is now pushing through the soil. The locust may have devoured your past, but heaven is rebuilding your future with precision. The return will not just match what was lost, it will exceed it, because God never restores halfway. Restoration doesn't rush, it unfolds with tenderness. Each sunrise carries a quiet promise that more is being rebuilt than you can see. What felt delayed is simply maturing into perfection, timed exactly for the strength you now hold. When the return arrives, peace will recognize it before your mind does. You'll breathe differently, lighter, freer. You'll understand that heaven never forgot. It was simply crafting something worth the wait. There is a quiet dignity in divine justice. It doesn't arrive with noise or spectacle, it simply unfolds, measured and complete. You've walked through seasons of humiliation, of misunderstanding, of being overlooked while others were celebrated. You've watched people misunderstand your silence as weakness, your kindness as naivety, yet you kept moving, kept believing, kept holding to the unseen hand that guided you. And now, something has shifted. You are entering the moment the psalmist once described. You are being crowned in the presence of those who doubted you. It's not about revenge, it's about revelation. When God lifts you, He doesn't do it to embarrass your enemies, He does it to reveal His faithfulness. You are stepping into visibility not because you demanded it, but because heaven has decided it's time. Every season of obscurity was necessary to prepare you for public purpose. You were hidden not because you were unworthy, but because you were in training. Now, as light begins to rest upon you, you will notice something profound. Peace will precede recognition. You won't need to prove anything, explain anything, or defend yourself. Your presence alone will testify. Those who once mocked will feel the weight of grace and see what they could not before, that you were chosen long before they had an opinion. According to the words in the book of Psalms, chapter 75, verse 7, it is God who judges. He brings one down. He exalts another. This is that verse in motion. The hands that once pushed you down cannot stop what is rising now. God Himself is positioning you. He is placing you before tables once closed, granting access to circles you never thought you would enter. The same path that led through rejection has now become your royal corridor. But this elevation is different. It carries humility. You are not standing taller to look down. You are standing taller to lift others. The crown you receive is not for decoration, it's for service. Heaven's royalty wears compassion as its robe and wisdom as its jewel. You were refined so you could reign with kindness, not arrogance. Every act of obedience, every tear of endurance, every silent prayer, they all led to this moment. You didn't lose when they turned away. You learned. You didn't fail when doors closed. You were redirected toward better gates. Now, what once wounded you becomes the very story that inspires others to rise. Crowning moments always come with clarity. You will see why it had to happen this way. You will see how every loss carved room for greater capacity. You will see that God never forgot the stage He promised. He was simply building it from foundations no eye could see. And here, at this divine unveiling, let your heart stay anchored. The applause of heaven matters more than the praise of men. Those who misunderstood you will see and wonder, but you will smile gently, knowing that vindication belongs to God alone. You are living proof that patience is powerful. That waiting doesn't weaken, it fortifies. The glory surrounding you now was not earned through competition, it was granted through surrender. You knelt in private, and now heaven lifts you in public. There is peace in knowing that your story was never about proving them wrong, it was about proving God right. Every delay was a setup for perfect timing. Every detour was a disguised shortcut to destiny. So, as the crown settles on your spirit, remember this truth: visibility is not vanity when purpose leads the way. You are shining so others will remember the source, not the vessel. Let your rise be worship, your success be testimony, your grace be a sermon without words. And now, as a prophetic act of agreement, type 4,444 inches, the comments below. Not as superstition, but as a declaration of divine stability and kingdom establishment. 4 represents foundation, structure, and permanence. When repeated, it becomes heaven's assurance that what's being built in your life will not crumble. By writing it, you're saying, I receive my crown with balance and faith. I am established in purpose. The same grace that raised you will keep you. The same mercy that crowned you will protect you. And when you walk forward from this moment, do so not as the wounded survivor, but as the chosen vessel carrying royal purpose. You are the fulfillment of a whispered promise. You are the answer to prayers prayed in secret. And now, heaven has chosen to make you visible, not for fame, but for faith. When you type 4,444, you are not just pressing numbers, you are building an altar of agreement. It's a silent declaration that what God establishes in your life will not be shaken. You are saying, "My foundation is divine. My stability is eternal." Each 4,444 carries the vibration of order and wholeness. It symbolizes heaven anchoring your destiny so that storms cannot move it. By writing it, you acknowledge that your rise isn't accidental, it's structural, sustained by divine architecture that keeps you standing firm in every season. There are moments when time itself seems to bend. What used to take years begins to happen in weeks. What felt unreachable starts to appear effortlessly before your eyes. It isn't coincidence, it's prophetic acceleration. When destiny finally catches up to obedience, time yields to divine speed. You are stepping into a season where the rhythm of heaven replaces the rush of fear. You may feel it already, the sense that things are unfolding faster than you expected. Doors that once required endless knocking now open at a single touch. Conversations align. Opportunities find you. Delays dissolve. It's not luck, it's timing. The moment you surrendered control, heaven adjusted the clock. Every second you thought you lost is being redeemed in divine motion. This acceleration does not mean chaos, it means harmony. When God quickens your steps, He also strengthens your frame. You will not break under the blessings rushing toward you. Heaven never sends overflow without first expanding your capacity to carry it. What felt like waiting was actually preparation for pace. We see this truth revealed in the book of Amos. Chapter 9, verse 13, "The days are coming when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman, and the planter by the one treading grapes." That verse describes divine momentum when harvest overtakes planting, when results surpass the effort, when manifestation outpaces expectation. This is where you now stand. The slow season is over. The pace of purpose has shifted. The plowman is running behind you, and fruit appears before the seed even fully leaves your hand. You might be tempted to call it sudden, but nothing in heaven is sudden. It only looks that way because you didn't see the setup. Every silent prayer, every delay, every closed door, it was all part of divine choreography. What feels like acceleration is simply the revealing of what heaven has been arranging all along. There's a reason your endurance was tested so fiercely. It's because acceleration demands stamina. God was conditioning your heart to handle what's coming. If you had received this momentum too soon, it would have crushed you. But now, you have been stretched enough to run without breaking, strengthened enough to carry weight without fear. You will notice divine synchronicities appearing everywhere, unexpected messages, precise timing, connections that feel heaven-sent. The spirit within you will whisper, "This is the moment I told you about." It will feel surreal at times, blessings chasing you instead of you chasing them. That is what favor looks like in motion. And still, acceleration does not mean striving. You won't have to sprint or force what is already destined. Instead, you'll flow. You'll find that grace becomes your engine and peace your compass. You will no longer measure success by effort, but by alignment. Every step guided, every move blessed. This prophetic momentum will touch every area of your life: relationships, creativity, purpose, provision, healing. Things that once crawled will suddenly soar. It is as though the winds of heaven have shifted direction, blowing directly in your favor. Where there was resistance, there will be recognition. Where there was scarcity, there will be surplus. But remember, this divine acceleration isn't about speed, it's about synchronization. Heaven isn't rushing you, it's syncing you with destiny. That means you can move quickly without feeling hurried. Rise higher without feeling heavy. Receive more without losing humility. Acceleration without grounding becomes chaos. Acceleration with peace becomes legacy. You have waited long enough. Now the season of suddenly is here, and you are ready. Every door that closed was saving you from misalignment. Every no was pushing you closer to the right yes. The timing is not just better, it's perfect. You will see divine confirmation through subtle signs, timing, repetition, peace. Don't second-guess it. When heaven accelerates, even your hesitations will become highways. You'll walk into rooms prepared for you, meet people who were praying for your arrival, and step into assignments written long before your birth. Prophetic momentum feels like mercy moving fast. You are not chasing blessings, they are finding you because your name is now in circulation. Heaven's network has you scheduled. You are in divine sequence. So walk with steady joy. Do not fear the speed, it is the rhythm of answered prayer. Time has not been lost, it has been restored. You are living in the fold of God's timing, where every second now serves your story. This is acceleration not of effort, but of grace. Acceleration is heaven's way of redeeming time. What once moved slowly now dances toward you with precision. You are witnessing prophecy breathe, promises taking form in real motion. Every delay has been converted into divine velocity, now propelling your purpose forward. The wind that carries you isn't random, it's revelation. It knows where you're meant to land. You don't have to run, you only need to trust the current. Grace has become your engine, and destiny your compass toward fulfillment. Every suddenly you encounter is heaven catching you up. You are not late, you are perfectly timed. Let the rhythm of divine acceleration guide you into peace, not pressure. Because grace never rushes, it simply arrives right on cue. There comes a point in every divine journey when the light begins to expose what has been hidden. It is not meant to shame but to reveal, not to destroy but to deliver. The great exposure is not punishment, it is purification. Heaven is clearing the stage, removing the shadows that tried to stand beside you as allies but were secretly working against your purpose. Exposure feels unsettling because it disrupts comfort. The masks that once looked friendly begin to fall. Conversations shift. Motives surface. And truth starts to speak louder than excuses. You may find yourself seeing people differently, realizing that some hearts were never truly with you. This can hurt, but it is holy pain, the kind that cleanses rather than corrupts. Every season of exposure begins with a whisper in the spirit, pay attention. God never reveals to embarrass, He reveals to protect. When He pulls back the veil, it's because something beneath it no longer serves your destiny. The illusions that once surrounded you must break so that purity can breathe. You may have already noticed it, doors closing abruptly, relationships fading, sudden clarity replacing confusion. What you are witnessing is not loss, it is divine editing. The author of your life is removing unnecessary lines so the story can flow as he intended. What was once hidden in fog is now standing in full light. And truth, even when painful, is always freedom in disguise. The scriptures affirm this timeless principle in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. This verse is not a threat, it's a promise. Truth is heaven's cleansing fire. It burns gently but thoroughly, leaving behind clarity and renewal. Every secret plot, every quiet deception, every subtle manipulation is now being uncovered. Not because God is angry, but because He loves you too much to let shadows follow you into your next season. Exposure is heaven's mercy disguised as disruption. It saves you from building your future on shaky foundations. It removes people who could not carry the weight of your next chapter. Sometimes the most loving thing God can do is to separate you from those who pretend to be for you while quietly pulling against you. Do not mourn what He removes. Do not chase what He exposes. Light never apologizes for shining. You are entering a stage of clarity where even your own heart will be examined not to condemn, but to heal. The same light that reveals others' intentions will also reveal yours, refining motives, cleansing pride, sharpening discernment. And when you see the truth, face it with grace. Exposure is not only about others, it's about alignment. God is not just revealing who they are, He's reminding you who you've become. The reflection in the light may surprise you, but it is sacred. You are being taught how to see as heaven sees through truth, not emotion. The process may feel lonely, but it is deeply purposeful. You are being pruned so you can produce purer fruit. Every false branch must fall for authentic growth to thrive. What feels like loss is making room for legacy. This is not destruction, it's design. Even silence becomes holy during exposure. Resist the urge to explain or defend. Truth does not need a spokesperson, it needs a witness. You are that witness. Stand still and let what is false crumble on its own. The winds of exposure are blowing not to break you, but to clear your atmosphere. Soon, you will notice a strange peace replacing disappointment. You will no longer grieve what left. You will feel lighter, freer, sharper. The weight of pretense will lift, and what remains will be real. That's the beauty of exposure. It leaves only what can stand the test of light. Every revelation is a reset. Every truth revealed is a doorway to a more authentic existence. You are stepping into an era where your surroundings will finally match your spirit. No more pretending, no more illusions, just clarity, honesty, and alignment with divine truth. So embrace it. Do not fear what the light uncovers, for only what's meant to last can survive illumination. The great exposure is not the end, it's the cleansing breath before a new beginning. And when the dust settles, you will see that everything revealed was necessary for your restoration. Exposure is heaven's reset button. It clears what blocks clarity and invites authenticity to take its rightful seat. You are being purified, not punished, prepared. Not punished for what your next assignment demands. Let peace replace shock. Every unveiling has purpose. The light doesn't arrive to humiliate, it arrives to heal, to filter what cannot continue with you. Trust the cleansing. When truth finishes its work, gratitude will replace grief. You will thank God for every mask removed, every illusion dissolved, and every revelation that set your future free. Your rise is no longer silent, it's becoming undeniable. The very air around you feels different now, charged with the electricity of fulfillment. You have become the evidence that faith still works, that patience still pays, and that grace never forgets its promises. You were once hidden, but now your light is beginning to stretch across horizons that once seemed unreachable. The remarkable thing about divine elevation is that it doesn't need announcement. It speaks for itself. Every step you take now leaves echoes that whisper, "This one has been refined." You are not the same voice that trembled in the dark. You have become resonance, steady, clear, and unshakable. The watchers who once doubted can no longer deny it. This rise is not noisy, it is noble. It does not demand attention, it attracts it naturally. People will begin to feel peace just by hearing your words or watching your actions. That's because you are walking revelation, a living parable of what it means to endure and still love, to lose and still believe, to fall and still rise again. The word of truth affirms this spirit in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That is who you are now, a light that refuses to flicker. You have been positioned where visibility meets purpose. You don't have to strive for influence. You are influence. You don't chase platforms. You become one. Every word, every act of kindness, every time you choose grace over anger, these are the sermons your life now preaches. But even light needs community to travel farther. Flames burn brighter when they're near others. This is why moments like this matter, not to build an audience, but to keep a movement alive. When you like these messages, it's not a click, it's a spark. You're adding your flame to the collective fire that helps lost hearts find warmth again. When you share, imagine it as releasing a lantern into the night sky. You never know whose darkness that light will pierce. Somewhere, someone scrolling in silence might stumble upon it and realize hope is still possible. Your share becomes their sunrise. And when you subscribe, you're not just joining a channel, you're planting your roots in a garden of continual awakening. It's your way of saying, I want to grow where light lives. You become part of a circle that keeps watering faith in unseen hearts. If something in these words resonates deep within you, let your heart speak below. Your comment is not noise, it's another heartbeat in this shared rhythm of faith. Every word you leave becomes a ripple of light, reaching someone who still needs courage to believe again. For those who feel stirred to go deeper, to donate, to pour back into what poured into you, know that it is never about obligation. It's an act of beauty, like tending the soil that once fed you. Imagine your giving as rain on a field of voices yet unheard. It keeps this message alive, breathing, reaching those who have forgotten their worth. You are not paying for words, you are sustaining a flame that has already lit something inside you. And if you cannot give today, your presence is already a gift. Listening, reflecting, and carrying the truth forward into your world, that is donation of spirit. Each act of awareness nourishes the garden we are growing together. This is what it means to belong to something divine, not bound by contracts or conditions. but united by calling. When you lend your support, in whatever form, you're helping this light keep traveling like a river, finding new shores, like wind carrying seeds across generations. Your rise is not meant to be private. It's testimony meant to be shared through both action and love. You are part of a greater story unfolding, a network of chosen ones building a mosaic of hope, one gesture at a time. Every interaction here, whether visible or silent, becomes another note in heaven's ongoing song of redemption. So thank you for showing up, for believing, for standing. Thank you for letting these words find a home in your heart, whether through a like, a share, a comment, a subscription, or a quiet gift. You are helping build something eternal, a refuge of light that continues to reach, heal, and awaken. And as this message closes, may you feel heaven's smile resting upon you. Your rise is not coincidence, it's divine choreography. You are the undeniable evidence that God's promises do not expire. Keep shining, keep sowing, keep believing, for your light has become a path for others to walk upon. Every small gesture of faith ripples beyond what you can see. What feels like a simple act here becomes a wave of light touching lives you'll never meet. Your rise is a message heaven keeps rewriting in gold. Continue walking, shining, and loving, because your light teaches others how to find theirs. There is a moment in every journey when authority is not given, it is recognized. You begin to notice that your words carry weight, that peace follows your presence, that the atmosphere bends towards stillness when you speak. It isn't pride, it's placement. You have stepped into the restoration of divine authority, the kind that does not shout but simply exists, the kind that darkness cannot imitate because it was born from submission, not ambition. This authority did not come cheaply. It was forged through endurance, refined in humility, and sealed by surrender. You didn't gain it through striving, you inherited it through obedience. Every prayer whispered in exhaustion, every time you forgave when you wanted revenge, every moment you chose faith over fear, those were the lessons that trained your spirit to carry this level of grace. Now, heaven trusts your voice. When you pray, things shift. When you declare peace, it takes form. When you speak hope, despair trembles. This is the restoration of dominion, the return of the original design, where humanity and heaven walk in rhythm again. You are not begging for miracles anymore. You are commanding alignment with divine will. We find this truth in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. That promise is not symbolic, it is operational. You are walking proof of it. Every situation that once intimidated you now bows before the power of faith that has matured within you. The authority you carry isn't about control. It's about harmony, bringing every chaotic thing back under divine order. The world around you might not understand this shift. They will sense something different but cannot define it. They may call it confidence, composure, or luck. But you know better, it's consecration. Heaven has restored your spiritual blueprint, reactivating the authority that was always meant to flow through you. This restoration also changes how you move through conflict. You no longer fight to win arguments. You speak to bring peace. You no longer chase outcomes. You command them with patience. Your authority is quiet, yet unbreakable. Clothed in calm, but wrapped in fire. Even your silence now carries the echo of divine instruction. Every environment you enter adjusts itself to your spirit. Confusion dissolves where you stand. Chaos retreats. Peace expands. You are no longer a thermometer reacting to conditions. You are the thermostat, setting the climate of the moment. This is what restoration looks like, regaining the ability to shift atmospheres simply by being aligned. And with authority comes accountability. Heaven restores not for status, but for stewardship. You are entrusted to speak life, to heal with words, to carry balance into places drowning in noise. Your voice has been tempered. It can no longer be reckless. Every syllable you release now carries creative power. You can build or break, bind or bless. Choose wisely, for heaven listens when you speak. This power also carries gentleness. You will find yourself moving slower, more intentional, more aware, because true authority doesn't rush, it radiates. It doesn't demand recognition, it creates restoration. The more you walk in it, the more you'll understand that miracles are not moments, they're atmospheres you sustain. Even nature responds differently now. Your discernment sharpens, your timing improves. You find yourself arriving at the right places, meeting the right people, saying the right words without effort. It's because your spirit has been realigned to heaven's pulse. The restored authority makes you a vessel of divine order, and the universe recognizes its original sound through you. There will still be tests. Authority without humility becomes tyranny, and heaven will not allow that in you. The trials you face now will not be about survival, but about stewardship. Can you remain pure when influence increases? Can you stay hidden when being seen is easier? The answers to these questions define the endurance of your authority. But heaven knows your heart. That's why this level of trust was released to you. You have proven that power cannot corrupt a soul anchored in surrender. You no longer use prayer to plead, you use it to partner. You speak not to convince, but to align. That is authority redeemed. So, walk as one who carries heaven's signature. When you speak, let compassion lead. When you act, let mercy govern. When you move, let peace announce you. This is dominion restored, not through domination, but through divine harmony. The restoration of your authority means this: the world will hear truth again through a human voice that has remembered its source. You have become a bridge between heaven and earth, a living decree that light still reigns. Let your presence remain steady, your words intentional, and your heart soft, for these are the marks of the truly powerful. Your authority is not a crown of ego, but a mantle of service. You were given power to heal, not to boast, to restore what was broken, not to rule. Walk wisely. There comes a stillness after long battles, a silence that feels sacred rather than empty. It is the quiet of completion, the gentle hum that follows a symphony when every instrument has played its part. You are standing in that silence now. The storms that once tried to drown your voice have passed, and what remains is peace, steady, deep, undeniable. It is not the fragile peace that trembles at trouble. It is the kind forged in fire, proven through endurance. You have become a vessel of calm power. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer chase, you attract what aligns. This stillness is not stagnation, it is strength learning how to breathe. You are no longer the seeker, you are the found. Heaven has finished what it began, and the evidence lives in your steadiness. The long road has taught you many languages, how to speak faith fluently, how to interpret silence, how to translate pain into wisdom. These are the dialects of destiny. Every scar now carries meaning, every tear a hidden testimony. You have learned that brokenness was never failure, it was initiation. You were being prepared to hold what only maturity could manage. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." That is the declaration over you now, not a request, but a recognition. The glory you carry is not external, it emanates from within. You are not waiting for your light has already arrived. It shines not because you are trying, but because you are true. Truth always glows when refined by surrender. This final stage of your journey is not about striving, it's about stewardship. You are called to maintain peace, not to chase approval. You have learned that validation from people fades, but confirmation from heaven never expires. The crown you wear is invisible, but its weight is real. It is the reminder that you endured without losing compassion, that you were stretched without snapping, that you were tested and found faithful. Completion does not mean everything is perfect, it means everything is aligned. The same winds that once opposed you are now carrying your purpose forward. The same fire that once burned you now keeps you warm. Every contradiction of the past has found resolution in this moment of clarity. You no longer ask, "Why me?" but "What now?" That is growth, the transformation from survival to assignment. You are being positioned as a keeper of peace, a carrier of quiet authority, a guide for those still walking through storms you have already survived. You will not need to shout your wisdom, your presence will speak it. The same way light needs no introduction. Your authenticity will draw others into remembrance of their own. But remember, with peace comes responsibility. The calm you carry is not for comfort alone, it is for healing. Wherever you go, environments will shift, people will soften, division will lose its grip. You will not always see it, but heaven will record it. Every step you take leaves a trace of restoration. You are no longer just the chosen one, you are now the vessel through which others will awaken. And even as you walk into new seasons, remain gentle. Greatness whispers, it doesn't demand. Let your humility remain the frame around your victory. Let gratitude stay louder than applause. Let compassion be the fragrance that follows your success. This is how the chosen remain aligned, by never forgetting who carried them when they could not stand. You are entering an era of quiet abundance. Things will flow toward you, not because you chase them, but because you have become a magnet for grace. Provision, favor, and opportunity will recognize you because they were designed to respond to the light you now carry. What you once prayed for will start to seek you. There will still be challenges, but they will no longer frighten you. You have learned the secret peace is not the absence of battle, it is the mastery of response. You will face storms with the same stillness that once seemed impossible, because now you know. The one who called you never leaves mid-journey. So breathe, rest, stand tall in the silence you once feared. This is the sound of completion. The circle has closed, but not ended, it has expanded. What began as your awakening has become a movement of grace flowing through you. You are no longer waiting for change, you are the change. Moving, breathing, speaking light into the world that still needs it. And as heaven watches, It smiles because the chosen one did not fall away in the fire, but emerged radiant, refined, ready. The journey was not easy, but it was holy. And now, eternity itself bears witness. You have become the message you were sent to carry. And now, the journey completes its circle. The message that began as a whisper in your spirit has become a living flame. You've walked through revelation, refinement, and restoration, and still, you stand. The heavens have watched, the earth has witnessed, and your own soul knows the truth. You are no longer becoming, you are. But this light is not meant to rest in silence. It breathes, it travels, it reaches. When you like these words, you're not reacting to a post. You're affirming that truth still speaks in your generation. You're adding your spark to a constellation that stretches across hearts and screens, forming a quiet chorus of awakened souls. When you share, think of it not as content, but as conversation. A lantern released into another night. A seed of clarity sent into someone else's confusion. You never know whose heart it will reach, whose tears it will dry, whose hope it will reawaken. Your comment is not just text, it's testimony. Every word you leave below becomes another heartbeat in this rhythm of light. When you write, you remind the unseen that faith is still alive, still breathing through ordinary people like you and me. When you subscribe, you're building rhythm, committing to stay connected to the sound of divine truth as it continues to unfold. It's like saying, keep the oil flowing, I'm still here, still listening, still growing. And for those who feel moved to donate, do so freely, beautifully, like one watering the same ground that once grew your own strength. You're not giving to a voice, you're fueling a movement. You're ensuring the message that touched you continues to reach those still standing in their storm, waiting for light. So, thank you for walking this far, for listening deeply, for shining quietly. Keep your heart open, your spirit steady, and your flame alive. Because this isn't the end, it's the beginning of everything you were created to awaken.